Hi everybody, I'm Chris Fisher RPT, also known as the Blind Woodturner, and welcome to this year's AWGB 2021 Virtual Seminar. Well, that's a mouthful. So it's great to have you here in my workshop. It's a great honour to be asked to do a presentation for you guys. So yes, I'm going to have a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy it, and whilst I'm doing my demonstration I will be telling you a bit about myself, what I'm doing of course, and how I do it, and yeah, a bit of my story if you don't already know who I am and where I'm from and how I got to be here. So we're going to get set up now and we'll start turning. Right folks, so what we've got here is a piece of olive ash, and this is going to be my piece for my demonstration. It's approximately 14 inches in diameter, and I've trued it up just to save a bit of time. Just a couple more passes to do. So what I have to do is obviously feel for where I'm always going to start, and I can feel there's the little hole there left by the live centre, so I'll just feel for where that is. Face shield down, let the lathe come up to speed, and then I'm just gonna nice and gently come back, and then just feel my way in again there. Feet are spread nicely apart at shoulder width. Just have a feel, and just moving the body back. A nice gentle push cut. Just getting my brain in the game, as it were. Just do one more. Just up the speed a little. It's a nice gentle cut. And that'll do. So it's all about getting it balanced and steady and safe for me, and stop start feel, things like that. So there's a little bit of a dimple there, but that's not going to worry me, because I'm going to remove that when I form my mortise, but we'll get onto that now. So I'm just putting here my tail stock up there, and what I'm going to do now is mark the position of my mortise, and the way that I do that is with this little gadget that I invented, and it's been put in production with a collaboration with Axminster. So it's the speed sizer I invented. So there's a load of holes on here that correspond to the chuck jaw sizes. So because it would be awkward / complicated for me to mark a spigot, a tenon or a mortise using dividers and tape measures and things like that, I developed this method. So you have holes for internal clamping, holes for external clamping. So I'm going to do this in external mode. So obviously you guys would use a pencil. That's of no use to me, so I'll use a scratch awl. Just spin that up, and then hopefully the camera's catching that. That's a tactile score line for me to feel. Now I can remove the tail stock and get my parting tool, and again I have to feel for whether it's on centre or not. It's about right there. And then feel for the tactile score line. I'm just kissing it there. I come up to speed. I'm going to go in now at an angle for the dovetail. Nice and gently. And then I'm going to come across feeling. Whilst the lathe is spinning, I'm still good to go. I'm going to mark a position for my foot. and I'm laying out some tactile reference points for me now. That's what I'm doing. So as I'm doing this, I'm feeling and turning, the pictures in my mind are forming, and I work just off touch and mental imagery. So obviously this portion is going to be removed now. And I've just got here now a square carbide tipped tool. So I'll just raise the tool rest a smidges there. So how does a blind guy become a woodturner? Well, in my case, it was for the want of having a vampire stake. Huge horror film fan. Lots of you have heard this story before, but for those of you that haven't, huge horror film fan. Wanted a vampire stake as a Halloween prop, a piece of horror art. Listened to YouTube for 600 hours, bought a lathe and taught myself. And yeah, you got to start somewhere. So that's why I became a woodturner, just for the love of horror films, I suppose. So just using this carbide cutter, nice and gentle, just edging my way across. Nice and slow. Just pick up that centre pip. Crack across now, and I can have a stop and a feel. I'm trying to pick up as much information as I can just by the tip of the tool. I've got a slight little step there, so I can just let it come up to speed. Slow and steady. It's all about perseverance and trusting your skills and your instincts a lot. Nearly there now. Just move the tool rest in a little bit. So it's start, stop, feel, start, stop, feel, and it's just a case of slowly catch your monkey. So that's feeling much better there now. So that's the mortise removed safely and carefully to a very good size for the jaws to expand and hold on to that. So what I'm going to do now is move to my left hand side here, get a 1/2 inch bowl gouge, and then we'll be able to start shaping the bowl around here. Okay folks, so I've just repositioned the tool rest around here to the left, and I know that I'm going to be starting here. I've got the flute at about 10 o'clock, pointing to the left, handle down. It's tucked into my waist. Just let the speed come up. And then we're going to start shaping the bowl. So just feeling, letting it come around. Taking my time. Stop and have a feel. Move the banjo around. Again, let it come up to speed. Continue to shape like this. Taking my time. letting the shape start to shape naturally. Have a stop and feel. So every time I have to reposition, I have to stop, find my datum. And I know for most of you guys watching, you feel perfectly safe enough to be repositioning the banjo and the tool rest with the lathe still on. I really can't take that chance. Almost round to the edge now. Get rid of all of them. Arm was feeling heavy. Okay, so now I've got that shape around there beginning to form. Smells wonderful as well, this olive ash. Come back round here, let it come up again, let it come up to speed. Nice and gentle. So I'm working back now towards the foot. Again, I've stopped, so I need to feel for where I need to be now to start that cut. Nice and gentle. So as I'm riding forwards and backwards, I'm feeling tip of the tool drop in there. It's giving me a reference. It's riding the tool. Stop and have a feel. Move the tool rest a little bit. Again, feel for my position. Now I'll bring round this corner again and start shaping. I'll turn the speed up a little bit. That'll do. So I went blind, for those of you that don't know, went blind 13 years ago this October. And went totally blind in just 4 weeks due to toxoplasmosis, which is a condition picked up from animal feces. So I went completely blind in 4 weeks, and that was really the start of a whole new life. Some of it not that great, if I'm honest. Some of it absolutely wonderful. Just follow all the way around now. Yeah, I went through 4 years of really bad anxiety and things, but wood turning has been my saviour, and it's great therapy for me. Right, I've dropped the handle there now, and I've closed the flute, so I'm going to get more of a shear cutting action there now. A lot of the time turning, I try to do as much as I can with a traditional tool. I do love carbides, though they are ultimately a bit safer for me and quicker, but I do still like using traditional tools. It's how I taught myself how to turn. Let's close that flute, keep that handle down. And I do like to keep up with U-sighted wood turners as best I can, given my limitations. And I feel perfectly safe just as the lathe's coming to a standstill there, just keeping my hand high and having a feel at the top there. So I'm feeling for any transitions and ridges there that I just want to smooth out. So keeping that flute closed so it's not an aggressive cut for me. So I can just shape. Shape gently without completely redefining the form. So I have to feel for where there's a bit of a transition or a little ridge. Keep the tool there. So I've got that datum, that reference point again. And you can feel the tool give different feedback as it's coming round the edge of this bowl now. And I'm always constantly listening to what the tool's doing, what the wood is doing, what the lathe is doing. Nice and slow. I'm just trusting my instincts a lot of the way. So almost there now, folks, with a shape I'm happy with. Again, flute's closed. That's much better there now. There was a little ridge there that I wasn't wanting to hang around for too long, so there it is. That's really good. And then if I go now to a 3/8 bowl gouge, just check for centre height, just so I can get in a little bit closer with that foot there. Come up to speed. And I'm just gonna getting a bit closer there where there's some tear out. Again, let's drop that handle, give it a gentle kiss. So I went from a 1/2 inch to a 3/8 there. Wonderful, and that's cleaned it up there now, pretty decent right up to the edge of the foot. But what I could also do there now, just stepping out of shot here, feeling for my hole. I have then got, not that one, a square scraper. Just check that for centre height, too low. Luckily I keep that little bit of a pip there just for now. So I have to feel for where that little centre pip is. Check that I'm not fouling anywhere. Let's come up to speed. And then if necessary, cut in nice and crisp there. There you go. That's feeling really good. So what I'm going to do now is give this a bit of a sand up. So I will be wearing my respirator, my power cap with built-in respirator, and I'll have the dust extraction going as well. So forgive me for that noise, but we've got to protect our lungs. Right folks, the next step here is to apply some of this sanding paste. So this is just going to help keep the dust down as well. So it's a mixture of lemon oil, beeswax and mineral oil. And I'm only going to use it, I'm going to start sanding at 120, and I'll just do it with 120 and 180, and then as I sand up to 400 I won't use it again. But I'm going to have the dust extractor going and my power cap on. So there you go. So I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm just sanding lightly. Okay folks, I am just ready to give it a final sanding with 400 here. So back on with the respirator. Right, here they are, sent to me very kindly by Nick Agar, a dear friend of mine now, and ChromaCraft in the USA. So these are peel-offs and infills. So used together, these allow even someone like me with no sight at all to do some airbrushing and lay down some really cool designs. So they come in a pack like that with the peel off, and then the infill is the plastic sheets that have the detail. So I've used them before, love using them. And then just here is my little airbrush cupboard. So I've got the mini little compressor there that lots of you are familiar with. It's got the built-in tank, and I've got an Iwata Neo airbrush with an inline filter. And I've already worked out today the colours which I'll be using. I've got some thinners there because these are spirit stains from chestnut. I've got a green, a blue and a black, and I've got some cellulose thinners there just for a quick spray through in between the colours. So what we need to do is just reposition the camera, and then I'll get to sticking these on and then masking up. So we'll be back in a sec. Right, we're back. So here is the sheet of Swallowtail butterfly stencils. So they come in these peel-offs, hence the name, and the laser cut, high precision. So I'm going to lay them out in a nice organic pattern, just free willy-nilly, random but with purpose, as I like to say. And these are reusable. Obviously we've done our best to get this dust free, so if you stick these on carefully and then remove them carefully, and we're going to just need the negatives for this project, and I can get a bit all fingers and thumbs doing this, folks, so please bear with me, but who doesn't love a trier? So just carefully place. The reason why I've gone for a big bowl blank as well is it's easier when it's a bigger radius to get the stencil stuck, get a bit of rippling here and there, but it's nothing that's going to be that detrimental. So if you're doing something with a small radius, i.e. a smaller project, you'll need the smaller stencil. So you've got a few different sizes on here. So we've got one there, and then I'll go to one. You have as much fun as you want. You can be abstract and weird and wacky. You can try and replicate Mother Nature to the nth degree if you want, but have fun. Experiment, make mistakes. So I'm thinking so I'm thinking that now. So press them down firmly as you can. We're going to mask up as well with some thick masking tape, because obviously atomized spray will get in all the places you didn't think possible. So I've done that there. Let's move around there, and let's, so you know, completely random, fun. Just, you know, some swallowtail butterflies playing in the sunshine, fluttering around, having a bit of a giggle. I have to make sure that and again you see you get that bit of a creasing action over that radius, but I'm not bothered about the creasing around the edges that much, as long as I haven't got any of the detail compromised. You can always just peel it back a little bit and try again. Stick with it, folks. Get it? Stick with it. Pun intended. And then just have one there. One little baby one there. Well, not baby, smaller. In fact, let's have one right up on the ridge there. Making a bid for freedom. There you go. So obviously on a tighter radius like that, you'll need a smaller peel off. And my intention is probably with the smaller ones, I don't know, I'm thinking on the fly here, with the smaller ones you could really alleviate any detail if you wanted to, especially if you're a newbie to airbrushing, and just do it with some colours and a bit of gentle fogging. Certainly with the bigger ones I'll put down some infill detail. Right, so I'm going to get some masking tape and mask up this whole piece now. Belts and braces. And that was just handed to me off camera by Nicola, my amazing wife. She's in here assisting. So I'm going to do this all by touch, and hopefully through the beauty of editing we'll be back finished in a minute. Right, I've got my Iwata Neo airbrush here. Great, inexpensive, good quality airbrush. So I've got the green in it, so I've got the pressure dialed in. Obviously we don't want tons and tons, so tons and tons of colour to come gushing through. You don't want drips and runs. So remember, it's a dual action, so you're going to press down for air and then back for paint. So you're just going to get your brain in the game. Let's see if you're picking that up there. So just gently pulling back, and then you can get some really good fine detail, and then obviously you can fog. So we're going to be fogging colour in. So first with this green, so I have to feel where I'm going to be. I'm not wearing latex gloves because I need to line up and get my bearings with the fingertip and my target, but because I'm just fogging colour in here now, it doesn't have to be that accurate. It's later on where I really need to concentrate very hard. So again, we can just go to a place where we've got some and we're trying not to be greedy for finish. Less is more. And obviously the grain of this olive ash shining through will give you different effects as well. Trying to get it on as evenly as I can. Takes a couple of passes. Again, we're just building it up in layers. So I think that's it, having gone round the 3 groups. 1, 2, and there was the 2 single ones there, wasn't there? So what we need to do that now is just let that flash off for a bit, and I'll do a colour change. Okay, so this is the small sample bottles of chestnut spirit stains. Obviously they do the spirit stains, the iridescence and metallics, but these are really, really good. So I've just put some of the blue in the colour cup after changing the green out. So again, we can just I'll just give it a bit of a, so we're just going to get some blue through there now. So what I'm going to try and do now is just I've wound this knob in to restrict the amount that the trigger can pull back. So I just want to fog some blue in around the edge. So this is where I start needing to feel where I am. So there's that one there. So it's just giving a variegation to the butterfly. And if I was wearing latex gloves now, I wouldn't have the sensitivity of touch that I need. And ultimately this all cleans up with some white spirit. There we go. And you know, I never know how this is going to turn out. I think that's half the excitement for me. You know, it's trusting your instincts completely. But certainly with these bigger ones, I am going to get the infill and do some detail. So what I need to do now is empty out this blue and then come back with the black. And what I like to do is, even though the spirit stains do flash off and dry pretty quick, I just like to give it some gentle heat to help it along its way. And of course we're entering that time of year now where temperatures are dropping and there's more dampness in the air, so I would recommend that you get yourself a cheap little hairdryer. Whatever you do, don't steal the wife's Dyson, because you'll find that a very quick and easy way to spend the night in your workshop. So just give that literally just a few seconds, and then now we get on to the infill part. So here we have the Infill Stencil, and it has lots and lots of different designs on it, different types and patterns on the wing, some positive and some negative images, and some little details around the edge, so you can add maybe a foliage detail, incorporate that. But the one that I'm going to use, my favourite, is this one here, this positive, and I like it because it gives me a crisp edge, so I can feel the edge of the infill and the edge of the peel off, and it helps me feel where I need to be to get it lined up and start getting some detail in there. So it takes me a while, so I hope we can just persevere with that. And then, all fingers and thumbs again, what I need to do is line that up and hold it in place and get the airbrush up and running. So it's a bit fiddly for me. So with my right hand holding my airbrush, and my left hand trying to line everything up. I shall go for best guess. Again, I'll just get the brain in the game off. Get some colour in there. And hopefully that's worked, has it?
Yeah.
So obviously what we have there now is some colour on this side, so I'm going to flip this around to do the other wing. So just giving it a clean so I'm not smudging. You guys probably won't have to do that. It just, again, with me it helps. So again, what I'll need to do is feel. This will take you guys seconds. Holding that in place, spinning around. And let's again get some colour coming through. And hopefully we've got some through. That's feeling about right there. Reach around. Again, get some colour flowing. And I can smell the paint come through. So I know we've got some action. So hopefully we've got some laid down there. Again, obviously just going with my instincts and, you know, a hunch. So again, giving this a clean. It's all about routine and repetition. You know, it takes me hours to work out what works and what doesn't, and the trials and tribulations of trying to do all this. But for me, it's all about keeping as much as I can clean as well. Remember, we're going round the opposite way with this one. And again, you know, it's just as near as I can possibly get by touch. Get some black going. And hopefully we've got some down there. So let's just clean this infill again. And then what I can do is, on the smaller ones, I'll just fog some black around the edges. So what does fogging around the edges do? Well, it gives it a really clean, crisp line. So what I'm trying to do is just fog around the edge. Just to give us some crispness. Just to blend things in a little bit. This stuff gets everywhere. Any of you that's worked with paints and finishes will know exactly about overspraying, where it's capable of getting if you're not diligent. But in this case we want a bit of overspray. So I think I've done them all there. So that will just give them a little crisp outline. Wonderful. Just to make sure we have no drips and runs when we're peeling the masking tape off, which is where we're sort of like at now. So we need to just start peeling all this masking tape off. And again, don't just be yanking at it with too much zeal, because you don't just want to yank your stencil off and bend it, because we want to reaffix these to the backing sheet and use them again. You'll get quite a few uses out of them, They're not single use, just be careful. But the plastic infills will last a long time. Just look after them, give them a clean every now and then. Some methylated spirit or some thinners, just be careful. Obviously if you're using water-based stains with them, you can clean them in hot soapy water. The fun will come in when you actually peel off the peel off. For you sighted folks, I'll have to rely on Nicola to tell me what they look like. What we need to do now is get the backing sheet as well as I'm going, and carefully stick these back in place. So here's the first one. I never get these back on. I'll do the little ones first. I never get these back on perfectly again, but that was that tiddler, wasn't it? So it's entirely up to you as to what you do, what order, what pattern, what shape. Your work, your rules, as we say. Right, are you ready for this, folks? So hopefully that should look pretty amazing. And also on the infill, you get the cutouts for the antennae as well, but you can do them. Obviously, now you will just have to be careful, hold them firmly in place, and get them on. But hopefully they've come out really well, and they're clean and crisp. There's no drips. So if you can remember, we put the stencils on in our place where we wanted them, random but with purpose, masked it off really well. Again, you sighted folks, you might get away with just masking a little area, but I need to really just mask everything just for peace of mind. And then I went for a green, a blue and a black palette. Put the green down first and then put the blue down second, and just got a bit of variegation. Again, try to remember nature and leaves and things like that. And then the black, both did the detail on the larger swallowtails, but also on all of them. If you fog around, and you know, you can probably go a few mil off, and the overspray will find the edge. So I hope you've enjoyed that, folks. Obviously the piece needs to be lacquered now to protect that, because applying any polishes and waxes that might have solvents in will just completely wash them out. Right, so the airbrushing is completely dry now. Really happy with those butterfly details, and what we need to do now is get some lacquer on it. So as you can see, I've got a good respirator here. Very important that you have breathing protection. And also I've got some warm water here. Now what's this for? A lot of you are going to know what it's for, but I always like to have a rattle can or an aerosol sat in some warm water. Please not hot water, because you have got a risk then of an explosion, because that's a pressurized can obviously. So just warm water, great tip as well as the weather gets colder as it is doing now. So that's been sat in there, just warming up. So they recommend that you shake these cans for a couple of minutes, but being sat in warm water, you'll get away with shaking it for a bit less than that. Still need to do it though. That warm water gets the lacquer or the paint inside the can loosey goosey. And then we'll change the camera in a minute to pointing at the bowl. But I like to use one of these little triggers as well. Makes it feel a lot more like a proper spray gun, and you get some good control with that. So we'll move the camera and get some lacquer on this. Okay, I'm just going to put the respirator on now, and this can is going to be held about 25-30 centimetres away. Read the instructions on your cans carefully. They're there for a reason. The manufacturer knows what they're doing. So that's on there now. So just feel for where I need to be, and we're going to start laying down some light coats. I'm going to try and overlap as best I can without seeing. And we'll leave it at there, folks. It's going to be touch dry in 10-15 minutes. If you can, don't let it cure completely. It likes to go on wet if you can. Tacky, touch dry, it'll bond better. So that's it. We need to leave that now for 10 minutes and then we can crack on. Okay folks, hope you're enjoying the demo so far. By the way, I'm having a lot of fun, and that lacquer has completely cured now. Left it to set up and it's gone on really well, and that's because we took our time to let the lacquer come up to temperature, get nice and warm, so it would spray out of the can nice and smoothly. So there are just a couple of areas where I can feel a bit of a fuzziness, and you can hear one there. So if I put that in about the 12 o'clock position, so I remember where it is, what I've got now is just some burnishing cream. So starting on that area there, I'm going to gently put some burnishing cream on the towel and just feel, and then this is going to gently flat it back. And of course, to make sure we blended it all in. So I can feel that that's much smoother already. And in fact, what I'll just do is lock the spindle, stop it getting all loosey-goosey on me. So not pressing mega hard, just firm pressure, making sure we're getting it rubbed well in, and just feeling, and I can feel the difference to touch there on areas where I've been and haven't. So I'll just get a bit more on this. So we'll just recap. It's a satin lacquer, and we just applied light coats about 25-30 centimetres away, nice and gentle, not being greedy for finish, taking our time, enjoying the process, being methodical, and that way I can certainly keep tabs on where I'm up to and what's going on, and where I'm at and the process, etc. Let's just feel that foot. That foot feels pretty good. So we're working this well in. It's a bit like tea cutting cars back in the day, and obviously that's pretty old technology now. I don't even know if that stuff's available still, but it's a good way of getting out imperfections and defects. Move to a clean, dry bit of tissue. Just to carry on working this in now. So all the time I'm getting as much information from what I can hear as from what I can feel. So the sound from that paper towel changed then, just as that got buffed in. So it begins to feel really good now. Obviously, like a lot of products, it's got to dry and then you can buff it off, but I'll be applying some wax polish on top of this to further enhance it and protect it. And we should have a beautiful shine and some good protection for the airbrushed butterflies. I think I'm pretty much ready to apply some polish. Right, I am ready now to put on some gloss wax. This is Hampshire Sheen High Gloss, so I am going to apply this gently all over the surface, and then I'm going to let it just harden up for a short while, and then I'll get the lathe spinning and buff it up, hopefully revealing a wonderful shine. I can feel a bit of stiction there, it's gripping, so I think I've been all the way around. Now, because we're going to have the lathe spinning, obviously face shield or safety goggles at the very least. We'll just give this a second just to just feel for where I'm going. Do the foot first and then polish this up, and it should reveal a beautiful shine. But it shouldn't be, with it being a satin, it should be just a reasonable semi-gloss sheen to it, obviously with it being satin. So again, let's get a second coat on. Hopefully it should be popping. It should have really brought out the beauty in this olive ash. And there's no rungs or drips in that lacquer, and that's just by taking your time and following the directions on the can, and also good old practice and mistakes, of course. You know, they teach us as much about what we're doing and what we need to do as much as anything else. Those mistakes we make are part of the learning process. So again, I shall just give that a minute, and then when this is buffed up, we're ready to put the chuck on the lathe, reverse it, hold the bowl, and then we can carry on and face up the front, ready for hollowing out. So this should be ready now. Face shield down, gentle pressure at first, building. So it's as easy as that. There's no mystery, there's no tricks, it's just taking your time and enjoying it and having lots and lots of fun. So now I am just going to unplug the lathe, because I'm going to be removing this. Just get the spindle lock pin. There you go, that's fine. And we've taken all that time now to polish the underneath. Let's just rest that on a clean bit of towel. That's spinning freely now. So hold the bowl and turn the hand wheel. What I've found is that just spinning the piece off can lead to accidents, especially for me. You can be spinning it, lose grip, and it can be on the floor and bounce and damaged, and that's just not where we want to be. So hold your work nice and steady, use your hand wheel, and then you've got complete control of what's going on. And before I put my work on the lathe, I just give these jaws a nice clean. Make sure there's nothing on there that's going to damage the work. And then using, this is a great tip I heard from Colwyn Way, leaving the faceplate on, we're using that as a handle. That's gone on there. Just helps you keep hold of everything. Now, obviously this face is a wibbly wobbly, but it's feeling good. I'm just listening and feeling for any knocks. I'm just feeling around the back here for all the key points on the chuck. And then what I'm going to do is again lock off the spindle, reach for my drill, and then again I just have to feel. So these are nice chunky pan head screws. Banjo in position, tool rest, and luckily because we've got that little centre point from when we were finding centre, I can just feel this 1/2 inch bowl gouge just sit into that little hole. So turn the lathe on, bring the speed up, and I'm listening for any sounds that might alert me to a potential problem. Sounds good. Let's stop and have a feel now, bearing in mind that we are getting a sharp edge there now. Should be there in a second now. Good enough certainly anyway for the hollowing out process. And then what I like to do is just give myself a tactile reference point to start letting me know when I'm near the rim. I think if we go for something like that, that's just giving me a reference point that I can feel when I'm coming up to the edge. So I'm going to get the tailstock back on and I'm going to drill a depth hole using my depth gauge to let me know how deep I've got to go. Okay folks, so we'd face this up, and what I've got now is a Forstner bit in the Jacob's chuck, and what I'm going to do now is drill down most of the way in there to give me a depth hole to work to. Okay, so holding the chuck, slowly advancing the quill. I've got a piece of tape around the shank of this 25mm Forstner bit, and I can just reach over carefully with my little finger and just feel as to where that is. So bit of squeaking going on, don't worry about that, completely natural. And I think that should do me wonderful. Just be careful as well, that drill bit now will be hot, so we'll just wind that all back in, self eject, and I'll put that somewhere safe to cool down. I'm just going to do just a few passes just to get my bearings. Just a nice cut, so just feeling my way around with that. But what I really do like, especially for speed, you've got these, my custom made by a very dear friend, carbide cutters. This one is angled at 45, well, slightly less I think than 45 degrees, and it's got a dished carbide tip, and these have 1/4 inch increments, so I can use them as a depth gauge. Nice chunky tactile knob there instead of a collet, so I can remove these, and I've got interchangeable shafts. So what I need to do now is just give myself a bit of wiggle room there, make sure I'm on centre height. Like a lot of hollowing tools, it's best if the handle is up a little bit, and then with that angle the head is on centre height. So I'm just going to take my time and start to hollow out. So I'm just working back now to that reference point I gave myself. And let's have another feel. Carbide tools do make a lot of sense for someone like me with no vision, and even though I can use traditional tools, carbides do afford me a bit of a safety net. They're not idiot proof, and you can still have quite a sketchy moment with them, so you know, it's worthwhile putting in the practice with them as well. I know people can pick them up and get turning pretty effectively straight from the get-go, but I'd still recommend lots of practice with them and just take your time. They're great. They do allow me to catch up with some time lost with my start-stop feel, turning start-stop feel, so they do claw back a bit of time for me as well. But I do love using them, I make no bones about it. I like them, and you know, I love mixing it up between traditional and modern carbide. What I was doing there was using the tool rest as a fulcrum and swinging it around, because it's nice still to keep the tip. If it just comes straight on like that, you're going to get a bit of a catch. So keeping the tip like you would do really perpendicular with the spinning surface, the rotation, will give you a nice safer exit from the bowl there. So yeah, as I'm getting near now, as it's getting deeper, you see, you would start getting a bit of a catch. So you need to just take your time and sweep it around like that, so you don't get the grab on the edge. Okay, I've reached the bottom of that depth hole that we're putting with the Forstner bit, and I thought it would be prudent now to be checking very frequently with my depth gauge. So you may have seen these before, but I'm a fully paid up member of the Funnel Club. It's very hard for me to judge the depth of a bowl, so this is a variation of one that was made for me. So I've got here the baseboards. This goes up tight against the headstock, and make sure there's no wood shavings or sawdust at the bottom of the headstock, because it would affect the register. So this goes on the lathe bed, and then it's calibrated so this huge masonry bit, when that touches the inside of the bowl at the bottom, the gap at the bottom corresponds to how much I've got left before I go through and make a funnel. So I'll put it in place and just show you how it works. Okay, so we've got the depth gauge in place, so we'll just gently slide it up here now. So the drill bit and this depth gauge has been calibrated to my jaw set, and slide it in slowly, and that's touched. So the gap at the bottom tells me how much I've got to go before I pop through. So that's, I'd say that's about ½ an inch, maybe just a bit more, so I can carry on now. Okay, so I need to feel for my centre position as a starting point, because I've stopped the lathe, so I need a reference. So I've switched to a traditional, not traditional, a general all-purpose round cutter. So let me just feel for this rim here. Nice and slowly, feel for that centre pip, just gently chase it out, and then we can do a pull cut. And the harmonics are changing now as it's getting thinner. Nice and slow. Feel for that pip. The pip of doom, as I call it. There's a little bit of a bump there. And even with the general purpose round cutter, you can angle it over and take more of a shearing cut, just so we can soften that out, and that's much better. So I need to get my depth gauge in again. So yeah, we're probably down to just slightly over ½ inch, and you have to factor in just some finishing cuts and sanding, of course, but I can still go a bit deeper than that. Again, pick my tool up, find centre, pull back a little bit, let the lathe come up to speed. Bearing in mind I've got a little over ½ inch. And I'm just going to have a feel now with my fingers. That's feeling really good. And what I felt for now is my round nose scraper. Just get it spinning so I can find centre. Just slightly below, but you can just jockey it up. Nice and gentle. And it's amazing how much sound gives you a wealth of information, sighted or unsighted. It's letting me know the thickness that we're getting down to. It lets me know how the tool's cutting, if it needs sharpening. It lets me know if there's anything coming a bit loose, i.e. mortise to jaw integrity. So pay close attention and listen to what's going on as well, because your eyes can and will deceive you. So that's feeling pretty good now. I'm pretty much, I think, now at that point where I need to be sanding. Right, this is down to the point where I want it, where I'm happy with it. It feels lovely. So I'm going to start the sanding process. In here I have got a blend of mineral oil, beeswax and lemon oil. I can't remember the ratio, but it's a semi-hard paste. Obviously when on warm days it does get a bit looser. So I'm going to brush this on to the piece, and even though I'll be having my dust distraction on, as I call it, I will use this and it will help the sanding process go a bit easier, and it will clump the dust together. So I'm just going to apply this now to the bowl. So just applying this liberally to the entire surface inside, working it well in. So it's going to lubricate, help with the sanding, help keep the dust down and give a lovely smooth finish. So the process I am going to employ is to sand it by hand up to 400, and then I'm going to use both types of Yorkshire grit abrasive paste, original and microfine, which will take it to a theoretical 2000 grit when finished. So just get a bit on the rim there, just be careful. So why am I not lacquering this inside? Well, I don't want the whole bowl to feel like it's a piece of plastic. I've done that on the base to protect the airbrushing the airbrush butterflies, but I want this to have a nice gloss finish inside with some friction polish, but not the same. A bit of contrast so you can feel the wood really. So I'm going to start with 120 grit. You don't need to watch that, it's something you all know. Just keeping the speed low, sanding from 120 to 400, not getting too hot, and remember to wear all your proper protection, your PPE. So I'll be wearing this and having the vac running as well. Right everybody, I'm sanded now up to 400, and I've given it a dust off with the airline. So in this taller sauce bottle I have got some sanding sealer. I'm going to pour some sanding sealer on this tissue. Let's apply this all over, get it well worked in. It's cellulose sanding sealer, so it's only going to take a moment to flash off. And what I like to do is just denib with a little square of 1000 grit Nyweb from Chestnut Products. So that should have flashed off now. I'm just wearing safety glasses for this now, and just give it a gentle denibbing. Don't forget the edge. And during the sanding process as well, what I did was made sure I got that sharp edge, because as you're turning and things like that, it can get a bit sharp. So useful though, not only to make it safer and just round it off, but also the lacquer, if it goes to a hard corner, paint and lacquer don't like adhering to very sharp edges. So if you round them over, it's called breaking that corner. Just break them corners. It will stop it splintering and fracturing and things like that. So where's that? Oh yeah, put it up there. So I'll apply 2 coats. It's had one. This will go in obviously a lot easier now, this second coat. So when this is flashed off, denib, and then I'm going to work in the 2 grades of Yorkshire grit. So again, just gentle, don't want to burn anything. So 2 identical tubs here. well, identical for me, same size, but I don't need a talking label on these because they smell different. So that was the microfine. The original has a more earthy note to it for me because it contains pumice, so it just smells a bit different. So get some Yorkshire grit on there. Work it in with the lathe, not under power, just by hand. That's going to make sure I've got it on everywhere. And just working it in, it's going to make sure that there's no big globs of the stuff going to get launched off under speed. So we're going to start the lathe slow. I'm just going to start working it in. I can feel the grit in the Yorkshire grit, and I can hear it as well. So now we've done that and none will fling off, we can up the speed, just supporting my right hand. So we need to get this completely worked in, and I work it in until there's no greasy residue. In a moment I'm going to move to a clean piece of tissue. Just start buffing it up a little bit and just up the speed a little bit more. And I think that will be pretty good at that. So we're going to move on to the microfine now. Exactly the same process for this one. Obviously a host of special secret ingredients, but I do know that this has aluminium oxide in it to do the business. So I'm going to rub this all over nice and gentle. There you go. Start the lathe nice and slow again, just working this in. We can up the speed a bit earlier because it's got smaller particles. This just go in a bit quicker, a bit easier. Making sure I get that edge, and I'll just kiss that top as well. Keep working it in. Once it all completely worked in, because when I apply the friction polish, if there was any greasy residue left behind, it might just inhibit the friction polish a little bit. So I'm gonna up the speed a little bit now. I think that's feeling pretty good. Last bit of clean tissue. Just have to feel here now where there's a nice dry portion. There you go. But I mentioned portion again, I must be hungry. So and I think we will be good to go with that. So it should already have a nice satin luster for you guys, but now I'm going to move on to some friction polish. So with friction polish, less is more. I have had people at demonstrations say to me they use friction polish and they get the paper sticking to it, they get runs and drips and things like that. They've just basically applied too much. So just a few drops will really do you. Probably up to half a dozen maybe. And when I say drops, I mean drops. So if I apply this from a bit of a height, I feel the drops land on the tissue. And I just count them. So that was half a dozen there. Just let it sit in for a second. And then just light pressure so we don't get that tissue sticking to it and looking like your first attempt at shaving. And just applying firmer pressure as we go, getting that heat build up and making sure it's in evenly all over the project. That's feeling really good now. So whilst the lathe is still spinning, I'm just going to come away, apply a few more drops. Again, gentle pressure. Nearly there now at the end of this very fun project. And I think that should be it. So there we have it. Feeling absolutely silky smooth, and hopefully you've got the lovely olive ash grain shining through. Okay folks, so there's the finished piece, this beautifully aromatic piece of olive ash. So there's the inside that you've just seen me finish, and if we remember on the reverse side, I'll just rotate that gradually, the amazing airbrush stencils from Nick Agar and ChromaCraft, which are that easy to use, even a blind guy can do it. And then it had a satin lacquer applied, left to cure, and then flatted back with some burnishing cream, and then polished with Hampshire Sheen high gloss. So a variety of products, a variety of techniques, and there you go. So I hope you've enjoyed my presentation and demonstration for this year's AWGB seminar. I've had a lot of fun. I hope you guys continue to enjoy the seminar and learn a lot, and take what you've learned from the demonstrations and put your own unique spin on them in your own workshops. So yeah, have fun, stay safe, and remember to keep on turning, everybody. Catch you soon. Bye.